So I knew if that's true, if that's going to be true, then it can't revolve around me. I want to empower somebody else to live their best life who I know they, at some point, they're going to do it better than I am.
You just forgot about all that and just got really, really good at the one thing you're really good at right now, business. And through all your eggs in that, how much faster would you get to your overall vision?
I think if you identify yourself as a leader first, then you're obligated. You're obligated to have a different mindset. It's not about you. Your business will never grow if you don't invest in people.
Yep.
Yes, it's a risk, but what's the risk of not investing?
All right, so if you're a business owner here in New Jersey and you're doing 7-8 figures in revenue, you're still putting out fires, you're still in the day-to-day, we created this podcast for you. We're going to bring on two different types of people. It's going to be business owners who've done that. They've worked themselves out of the day-to-day. They've built a team to help them execute. We're also going to bring on people who want to do that and go through some live coaching, some live, like, hey, what things are slowing you down in your business? And then we're just going to do that live. So my name is Ryan Charterina, and on this podcast, we got Jim Emerich.
Let's go.
Backbone CFO.
Yes.
So Jim's the founder of Backbone CFO. They are a fractional CFO firm focused on construction, restoration, working with 7-8 figure business owners all across the United States.
Yes.
So Jim, welcome.
Thanks. This is awesome. I know we've been talking about this forever. I'm pumped to see you do this for real. This is going to add so much value to so many people. So way overdue, but I'm glad it's here.
It only took us a few years, but here we are. I think the biggest thing that Jim and I have talked about, and some other people I've talked to about this, there's so many little things that you pick up along the journey, and the biggest thing that we've talked about is really like the mindset of stuff. And my hope for everyone that listens to this is you just take away one piece of mindset advice. It's so much less about all the tactics. They're important, obviously, but the mindset of things is really the ultimate bottleneck.
For sure.
So Jim, if you don't mind, if you can give maybe like a brief introduction for the viewers and listeners about like, what is Backbone CFO? I think a really good one is, what the hell is a fractional CFO?
Yeah.
Maybe explain that and talk about where Backbone CFO is today, structurally, and who you work with and all that.
Yeah, sure. So Backbone CFO is a fractional CFO firm that specializes in working with founder-led, privately held businesses, right? So you already mentioned it, gave it away a little bit, but the industry that we focus on, or our niche, is construction, trades, and property restoration. Now, we typically work with business owners who are doing at least $3 to $5 million in sales on the top line, up to about $50 to $60 million. And last year, our average client was right around that $12 to $15 million range. What do we do, though? I think that's more critical than who we work with, right? And I think the easy answer to that, I'm sure we'll unpack it on so many levels today, is we work really with founders, right? With owners, with business owners who are growing and scaling their own businesses. And we're highly passionate about helping them get to the next level. And maybe the easiest way to help unpack this is I was actually late to this podcast talking to a business owner in the property restoration space in Utah, doing about $4.5 million in sales and hitting the ceiling. Been there for 8 years, hitting the ceiling. And in his case, somewhat profitable, cash flow is a challenge, needs massive visibility into the future of their business. And this is where I think mindset comes into play so much, but realizes that as the business owner, in this case, he's the founder, the CEO, recognizing that he's hitting the ceiling, which recognition is key, like as a starting point, needs to surround himself. And I think this is the commonality I see with all the business owners we work with. The best ones recognize they need to surround themselves with other leaders.
Yeah.
Be it sales, business coaching, finance, whatever. And so he's talking to us, and he's like, man, we just need cash flow visibility in the short term. In the long run, I want to go to 10 million.
Yeah.
Right. I want to go to 10 million in his case by 2028. So that's 2.5 years away.
Yep.
Got a lot of work to do, but the first, I would say, correct step in that process is awareness, and then getting the help he needs to get there. Right. So anyway, that's who we help, people like that.
Can you elaborate on we've talked a lot about this where, someone says, I hired a fractional CFO.
Yep.
Can you give us, and I think a huge value piece here is define a fractional CFO. What should they be doing? So if you're a business owner listening to this out there and you have a fractional CFO, I'd love Jim to define the term for you so that you can either say that's not what I'm getting, or maybe I don't need that. Maybe that's this. So I think that would be really valuable for everyone to kind of understand.
Sure. I'll start off by defining what it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think if the audience here is business owners and entrepreneurs, which it probably is, let's like take the low hanging fruit. We're not bookkeeping service. We're not an accounting service, and we're not your CPA doing your taxes. Okay. All three valuable things that you should have if you're a business owner, just not us.
Yep.
Okay. Now that's what we're not. So what are we? Well, we're number one, part of your leadership team, not your accounting department.
Yep.
Okay. We're part of your leadership team, not your accounting department. Why? Well, you need someone at this point, you're 5, 6, 7 million in sales, you're trying to go to 10 million, 20 million, whatever the number is. You, as the owner, the operator, the CEO, founder, visionary, are wearing probably too many hats today, right? Myself included, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure.
100%.
Okay. You're already wearing too many hats. It's likely that your highest and best use of your time, effort, energy, resources is not trying to be someone that you are not.
Yep.
So in the context that we just laid out, you need somebody to partner with you, in this case, on the finance side, somebody to take the leadership level seat on the accountability chart, if we're talking EOS language, that drives the results and is accountable to the outcomes of the finance department. Profitability and cash flow are the top of the list. Somebody has to be accountable for that is not you.
Yep.
That is what a fractional CFO is.
I think what you said there, and that's super, super important, is that it can be you, but most business owners are failing in that seat in delivering profitability.
Sure.
Where they're like, well, I had to spend this on this because of this. It's like, well, there's no financial control there. And then all of a sudden you get to the end of the year and you're like, we didn't really make that much money. It's like, well, you're playing both hats.
Yep.
You're trying to control the business profit, but also grow the business. And those are two wildly different things.
That's right.
And I think that's the value. Oh, I know that's the value of having that separate. It's very similar to all the leadership functions. Is like you now have to talk to somebody who has the control on the finances and convince them, why do we need to spend this money, rather than telling yourself like, oh, well, I'm just going to go do it.
So another example, literally this happened yesterday. On the phone with a landscape contractor. They have two divisions, maintenance, so think of like grass cutting, commercial contracts, and then they have hardscaping, okay? So we're getting on the call, we're talking about working together, barely breaking even, this guy, doing a good job of growing the business top line, but barely breaking even. We're at the end of the call, he's like, yeah, I think, there might be this case of like letting the maintenance division go because it's not profitable, where all like 50, 60% of my profits coming from hardscape. I'm like, yeah, let's talk about that. He's like, yeah, but I actually gotta hang up right now because I'm running to 5 back-to-back sales calls, and then we'll get to it later. I'm like, friend, that's your problem.
Yep.
We're gonna get to it later. Is the thing that we're always gonna keep saying, because you're right. You should go to the 5 back-to-back sales calls because you want to go close the next patio deal.
100%.
Done. I get it. You need to bring someone like us in to help you understand, do we get rid of the maintenance division or not? And my friend, don't wait another year before you answer that question, because you're running your profitability into the ground fast.
And yourself.
for
Which
sure.
Long-term not going to work.
Nope.
So I think a good starting point here is talk about, where Backbone CFO was. Like, let's go 4 years in the past or wherever you want to start there, and talk about your journey from, hey, what were you doing at that point? What did the business look like and feel like? And after we go through that, we can dive a little bit deeper. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our business is thankfully only 5 years old, so there's not like this massive history to tell. But I think if I go back to the beginning in 2022, I'm very fortunate in that I was the CFO for a company before I started Backbone CFO that scaled literally 10x revenue in 5.5 years. I got to see firsthand the power of having a leadership team.
Yep.
Having systems, having a process, the power of having brand, a lot of things that went right. So when I started Backbone CFO, I knew from day one, this was for me, not like, hey, I want to go out and be a solopreneur. I knew that I wanted to grow and scale a company. That's what I wanted. I wanted to build a brand that had enterprise value. That was kind of my starting point. I didn't figure that out later, and I'm grateful for it. So when I started the company in 2022 full time, my immediate thought was I knew I needed to go get teammates to help me grow and scale. So I did.
Yep.
From the beginning. In fact, I had a full-time employee working for me before I even left my corporate job. Okay, so now I'm also a bit of a risk taker. I'm going to lean into that like all the time. Yep. So like prefacing everything I'm about to say with that context, when I started in 2022, I went up to 2 team members besides myself within like the first 3 months. Now back then we were doing like low-level bookkeeping, accounting, and tax along with fractional CFO. But I think the principle was well suited for me to grow and scale within to say, hey, I know for us to go anywhere in this business, and we ultimately just landed on fractional CFO, we needed a team.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was true back in 2022 as it is today.
Yep.
Now, the good news is we did drop all those other low-end services, and in 2023, I met, actually it was the end of 2022 and beginning of 2023, I met my first fractional CFO, Melissa Zinni. Now, that was a game changer for me because what I realized was I was probably believing the lie a little bit that I couldn't replicate myself.
Yeah.
Right? This lie that I think owners and entrepreneurs fall into this trap because it's easy.
Yep.
We think we're really special and we're really gifted and talented, and we are. However, probably not in the ways that we think. So Melissa came on board and she started doing fractional CFO work. Here's the catch though. She started doing it better than me. Right?
I'm like, what?
Wait, hang on. You can do that? Like you can take that off my plate and execute and do it. Like you can think 3 steps ahead. This is unbelievable. Yeah. Right? So again, now that I saw that starting to happen, like scale in this space was a vision that I now I saw it come to pass.
Yep.
And like entrepreneurs, we're when we see it once, we're just like, let's go attack that, right? And that's exactly what we did. So in 2023, up through current, we dropped everything else. We said, hey, we're going after fractional CFO. Today, fast forward again, 5 years. We've scaled to a multi-million-dollar business. We are operating, I think, in 20-some states from a client standpoint. We have a team of fractional CFOs across the country in 6 different states at this point. And we're growing, expanding, hiring right now. So if you're listening, I'd love to talk to you if you're a fractional CFO. That being said, I attribute a lot of that scale and growth quickly to going right back to the beginning to say, I'm never going to be, Jim Emerich will never be the bottleneck in this business. I won't allow it. Anytime that I see it happening, especially now 5 years into, I'm like very, very acutely aware of when I'm the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And when I am, or anyone else at this point, because we've now scaled a leadership team, we're immediately trying to break that bottleneck. That constraint has to be exploded. So in today's world, that looks like sales, right? We're currently working on me not being the bottleneck in sales and business development. But that's just the ping pong of business, and I see it now with clients we work with that are much larger than us. Those constraints are always there. The question is, are you going to allow them to remain? And when you see them, can you slow down enough, right? And I think this is where EOS is critical, right? Where we pull out once a week in an L10, once a quarter in a quarterly, and annually, of course. We pull out of the business, out of the chaos, the day-to-day, and we say, hey, where's the bottlenecks? What's not working? What is working? And that's where we can identify what constraint we have to attack next.
There's been so many moments over the journey, the course of the journey, and I actually used something you said with a potential client that I was talking to the other day, and he was talking about like I have to be, and they run a 8-figure business.
Yeah,
it's like I have to be on and doing sales,
and
they're doing large projects.
Yep.
And he was like, I'm afraid that they're buying me more than our company. And I was like, interesting.
Yep.
And something that you said in the past that I love from one of your feedback from one of your clients is that, hey, Jim, we're going with you because of not you, your process.
Yep.
I think every business owner, and there's so many gold nuggets that from what you just said from a mindset perspective, and I want to hit on that.
Yep.
But can you talk about that process anchoring why a client works with you and how you set that up? because I think there's a lot of gold in there that a lot of business owners feel like if I am not in sales, that they're not going to buy.
Yeah.
So how did you differentiate that? How did you create this strong process that appealed to your ideal target market?
I have to start with mindset.
Yeah.
I have to. I mean, it's hard to go right. And we can talk about the process, but I have to start with mindset. And I think for me, again, it goes back to why I started the business, to grow and scale the best fractional CFO firm, right? So I knew if that's true, if that's going to be true, then it can't revolve around me. Any single part of the business, sales, operations, it doesn't matter. So that mindset is so strong, it's so baked into the culture of our business at this point that this business will not be bottlenecked on any one individual, let alone me. That mindset permeates every facet of our business, including sales. So the mindset piece for me was like, so critical. The other thing I'll say about mindset is, especially as an entrepreneur, I think you can relate to this. We want to overcome challenges, right? We want to overcome and kind of climb new hills. So I remember early on, I'm like, all right, I'm going to start this fractional CFO business. I better be a good fractional CFO. I'm like, well, that's a good spot to start. And then when I was good at that, I was like, all right, now I'm bored. What next, right? Yep. Well, now I want to go build a team. Awesome. Well, what next? Well, now I want to go build a team that does all the things that I used to do. Now what next? Well, right now and up to more recently, I've been business development and sales. That's a hill I haven't conquered yet. So from a mindset standpoint, I really get jazzed up. I get excited the fact that I haven't accomplished this yet, and that I want to empower somebody else to live their best life, who I know at some point they're going to do it better than I am, right? And then there's going to be a team that does it better than I will. And to me, that's the most exciting thing. Like right now, the limitation of Backbone CFO from a sales standpoint is me, and that's okay for a season, but I'm not okay with that being the end game.
Yep.
Right. The fun part of this as an entrepreneur, and that goes back to the mindset piece, is that this is the next hill to conquer. Right. This is the next. I don't even know that the dollar amount associated with that. I don't even know that there needs to be one. Yep. Right. It's just a flat out. It's the pure joy and excitement of this is the next challenge that I haven't conquered yet, but I promise I will. And to me, that's just the excitement. So before we go into the process, I guess wanted to level set it there.
I think we dive deeper into that because there's a lot of business owners out there that don't have that vision or mindset of I want to build the best fractional. There's all these little things that are in the way of getting to that, or even allowing their brain to think of that.
Yep.
Or say, I want that, or hey, that's going to require me to tackle these things, and I don't really want to do that.
Yep.
How can you describe, go back again 3 or 4 years, walk through the mindset, how did you get that mindset? And I think this is something that a lot of owners that listen to this are going to want some tactical things. How do I get that?
Man, one thing that I see that's the lines are really blurred in two kind of spheres, and entrepreneurship being one of them, but I think leadership is another. And these lines blur because I think great entrepreneurs are great leaders and vice versa. But if we kind of lock in on leadership for a second, part of leadership is leading people. In fact, it's one of our core values as a company is to be influential. The way I define influential is the ability to communicate and articulate a better future state and bring people to it.
Yeah.
Right? Bring others to it. Meaning it's not just I'm not the cap to that. I want others to come with me. And I think from a mindset standpoint, how do you get that? I think it's really investing in seeing yourself as a leader, right? Somebody who you're going to bring a team, you're going to bring others with you, and you're going to empower them to live their best life. Whether it's your clients, your employees, your vendors, your trade partners, whoever it is, I think if you identify yourself as a leader first, then you're obligated to have a different mindset. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
Love that.
And that's not to say that you can't take care of yourself. That's to say you should take care of yourself so that you can take care of others.
Love that. Super valuable. What would you say for business owners who, you're saying these things and they're like, man, I've never felt that way. I've never thought about that. What would you say for some of those business owners? What piece of advice would you give them to, in addition to that, what are some other things that they can do to increase their mindset?
Man, speaking from a personal stance here, I think this comes for me from two things. One, I feel very fortunate to have had some really good working experiences. Like I said, I worked in a a couple fast growing companies and organizations. So I would say surround yourself with other leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, you are the product of your environment to a degree. So if you don't surround yourself with the right people that have this mindset, you're really, it's going to be hard to do it alone. So the environment you surround yourself with matters.
Have you listened to the book from Ben Hardy, Willpower Doesn't Work?
No.
Get that one on your list. He talks about how people they want to will themselves to the place where he says willpower isn't a thing.
Yeah.
He says your environment is. Crafting your environment intentionally so that it would literally be impossible for you to not get the result that you want.
I mean, very similar to like a James Clear, like, setting up that environment so that you're like, if you have Coke in your office, it's likely you're going to drink Coke, 100%. Right? But just put water. So totally agree there. And then the second thing I'll say, like, just from a faith standpoint, I'm a Christian. I really for me, it's a very personal matter, right? Yeah. And I think having personal convictions that you believe in that separate you from the pack are important. But that being said, that leadership component to view yourself as a leader, not just a business owner,
so good.
It makes it more.
What has been like one of the most risky decisions that you've made over the past 4 or 5 years in growing your business that appeared risky at the start, but has been the biggest payoff for you over the past 4 or 5 years?
Easy answer: invest in people.
Yeah.
Easy. So in fact, I lead a mastermind of fractional CFOs. I facilitate one with a good friend of mine. And I got hit last night with this question, literally last night. This person who is probably in the first 2 or 3 years of building their firm, solopreneur, has kind of messed around a little bit with trying to hire people, but never really went all in. So I was telling this story about how I hired Melissa back in 2023. And, this person was like asking for all the details. How much cash did you have in the bank when you pulled that trigger? How much what was your client count? What was your ARR? Like all these things. I'm like, I don't even remember. I don't, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but here's the thing. Like, you got to do it. Yep. And this is what I told her. I was like, your business will never grow if you don't invest in people. Yep. Yes, it's a risk.
Yep.
But what's the risk of not investing into people?
Gold.
It's insane.
But that piece right there, like you pick that up from being around people like that. Like the cost of me not doing this is way too high. And you've learned that over time from other people, from environments, from other business owners that are further ahead of you. Like those are the things that if you're listening to this, get around people that are ahead of you. Like it's just, it's like the biggest hack when you realize you're like, oh, like you just gave great perspective to whoever that was.
For sure.
We're like, just go do it.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Like you're going to be okay.
And I love, at this point in the entrepreneurial journey, it's just getting real fun, right? Like I am not exaggerating when I say this. I literally spend hundreds of thousands of my own dollars to ensure that I am in environments that challenge the hell out of me all the time. And then it's fun just being in the business I'm in. I'm surrounded naturally by entrepreneurs. And we were talking the other day. It was, a mutual friend and client of ours was in a room with Alex Hormozy, and I'm like seeing it on Instagram. I'm like, how'd you get in that room? Like to me, like this just fires me up because I know that he's better off being 100%. In that environment, being challenged, his mindset's being challenged, right? And I know he's going to execute on it. But to me, I've been in those environments so many times where I know the ROI is crazy. There's a financial ROI that also I think is true, but it's the ROI up here to push me to go to the next level constantly and to just enjoy the ride along the way with great people that you like that saying, the saying, birds of the feather flock together, right? It's so true. If you put yourself in those environments, you're going to have a different mindset. Within
about 10 seconds, it's like, it's an immediate like, oh.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
Yep.
So over the past few years, and I do want to what are the main highlights, the biggest, maybe like the 2 or 3 biggest like needle moving things you did over the past 5 years that led you to be here today and that's setting you up for future growth? Like walk me through what those top 2 or 3 things is. So you said invest in people.
Yep, number one.
What other things do you feel like have gotten you to today and set you up for the future so that you can grow as fast as you want?
Cool. So hands down, number one, we already mentioned it. It's invest in people. And, I heard Hormozy say this recently, and I've just seen this in my life, but I now also lean heavily into it. When you feel like you don't know what to do next, build capacity. Build capacity. When you feel like it's just, what is that next step that I have to take? I'm not sure, there's 50 things in front of me.
Yep.
Build capacity.
Yep.
Right? If you build capacity, you're now set up to growth. But if you never build capacity, you could have all the right decisions, all the money in the world, but you can't grow.
So good.
You can't grow. So anyway, people, number one. Number two, was it 2023 or 2024? We started with EOS. And obviously you're an EOS implementer, and this is like, not to blow smoke up your ass, but like, this is something, I'll take this back further than even working with you. I was very privileged. I think you know the story. In 2020, January of 2022, when I started Backbone CFO, I had read the book Traction years ago. I had never been part of an organization that ran on EOS, but one of my first fractional CFO clients was running on EOS, right? And I remember I was LinkedIn DMing this guy. He's like, yeah, do you know this? Do you know that? I'm like, yep, I do that. He's like, you run an EOS. I was like, nope.
Yeah, I know that.
What is that? Traction, right? Gino Wickman? He's like, listen, I'll sign right now. My one requirement is that your engagement has to coincide us running EOS, because we're doing that EOS thing. I was like, sure, I need the money. Right?
Okay.
And I went into that focus day with that client, brand new client for me, and I'm in this EOS session with Jim Sochi. And it was like, this was the best thing that I had ever, and you know, your first day, you're like, what? Like literally, I'm like, don't end this day. What else can we do right now?
8 more hours.
and the clarity that business owner got from that session, the clear actions, the clear accountability, the accountability chart, the rocks, like the whole nine, right? I remember thinking to myself very vividly, this is January of 2022, when our company gets big enough, right? Quote unquote. We will talk about that. We're doing this, right? And sure enough, the minute I had at least one other person to put on the leadership team, I called you. Yeah. And that was, I think it was 2024, maybe it was 23, I forget now.
I think end of 23,
23?
into 24.
So whatever, right? Yeah. So as soon as I legitimately had one other person on our leadership team, and it was me, you, and I had my assistant at the time just sit, because we needed people, right? I was that jazzed up about running on EOS, because here's the thing, like that terminology, like the EOS life and having the freedom, like I'll never forget the quote from Dan Sullivan, and I guess Ben Hardy from Who Not How, right? Freedom of time, freedom of purpose, freedom of relationships, freedom of money, right? Like this idea that there's these freedoms that can be attached to our purpose and what we're doing, and obviously our business is part of that. To me, I'm like, I am locked on that. Whatever I can do to further that for me, my family, like there's things way bigger than business. I'm in. Like I'm 100% in, and now 3 years. I think we're in our third year of running on EOS. It's been a game changer. It has been an absolute game. There is no way we're a multi-million-dollar business right now without the accountability, without the perspective, without the systems, without the process, without all the issue processing, like the L10s. I mean, it's crazy. I should probably, so it's probably what, 150 some L10s at this point, something like that. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. But the amount of progress that we've made incrementally is absurd. So I would say the second thing is EOS. Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed in working with a lot of businesses is, like some owners, their mindset is like way up there. And then their leadership team, like they do a lot of training, personal training themselves, and then they're not able to execute because their mindset is so high above their leadership team. And this is something I'm starting to notice more of, that that gap is a problem. You're going to be bottlenecked because your people are not growing as well. And I think something that I even underrated for EOS is, well, those leadership team members are like, you got an education in that very first focus day. You're like, what the hell is this? And like, you had never been exposed to that. So that's why it's so fascinating when you see a team whose the mindsets are way different, but they grow immediately by just being in the environment. And that, I feel like a lot of business owners don't invest in their people directly, their leadership. And I think, having like, it's so important that a business owner goes to those mastermind events so that they're expanding their mindset, but bringing it back to the team is hard. And I think that's a key point of, you can't grow unless your team grows.
Which, again, like no pun intended, but traction, right? The essence of that is, right, there's these ideas, there's these concepts, principles, and frameworks But ultimately, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we need to run that down through our organization so that it's executable, right? And I think what is so beautiful about EOS is it is like the perfect mechanism or conduit for that, right? And it's perfectly designed, and we don't have to recreate the wheel. And we have to recreate the wheel in a lot of things in business, but not here. We don't, right? This is one area where it's like, no, this is plug and play as it gets. So again, and it blows my mind. So the two gentlemen I was telling you about, the sales calls I was on, the landscaping business, hardscaping, and then the restoration business, these are $5 million plus businesses. I asked them, because like it's part of our questionnaire at this point with clients, do you run an EOS? Neither of them did. I'm like, so have you heard? Neither of them have even heard about EOS. And it was just
so
like,
wild.
That's so we said on the book Traction. I'm like, I don't care if you work with us or not. You need to read this book and you need to get informed about EOS, because it's that for you to get to the next level, to have the systems in place, the leadership, the accountability in place for you to scale. It's critical.
It's wild to me how pervasive EOS is, and yet how few business owners actually have heard about it. We're actually sending out books to everyone here in Monmouth and Ocean County right now. Anyone who runs a 5 million plus business is getting a book. And like, read it.
Must read.
Change your life.
Yes.
Again, like, I'm happy to help you, but like, you got to read this book.
This is just the fun thing about EOS. So my daughter's in middle school, and she's picking her electives, or she's about to go into middle school. And there's like this whole list of stuff that doesn't matter about life at all. Like, right? Like, there's this one thing that was like business technology. I was like, oh, Mila, read that description to me. She read it. It was like, learn how to operate Word, right? Or something stupid. And I was like, please don't do that. But
please don't do that.
But there's this concept of like, again, we talk to people all the time running businesses, and they don't know about EOS. And like, it's so foundational. I would actually call it that. It's so foundational to running a successful business that it's like the equivalent of taking accounting 101, which how many business owners just never did, right? Like, so you don't even know what a P&L and a balance sheet really is, or what it should look like, or let alone a statement of cash flows, right? It's that foundational. Like, I would emphasize it that much, that if you are running any business at any size and have any desire at all to succeed, which I would assume is everybody, you need to read this book.
Let's go back to, I tell people this story nonstop. What would you tell a business owner who's doing, say $1 million in revenue right now, and they're like, hey, I don't have enough, I don't really have a leadership team. Or whatever size they are, it doesn't really matter. I don't have a leadership team. I've talked to a lot of business owners who are, 1 to 5 million revenue, even 10 million revenue, who are like, I don't really have a leadership team. I'm like, whoa. What advice would you give them if, one, they don't really have a leadership team? Like, what would be the first thing that they should do so that they can start building a leadership team? Because ultimately, like, I talk to a lot of business owners who are like 80, 90, 100-hour weeks, where I'm like, I don't even know how you're alive. So what piece of advice would you have for them?
So, and I feel you, I'm in that range, right? You have to have a crazy good vision for where you're taking people, where you're taking this business. Because the truth is, you might not be able to go hire $250,000 people and put them on your leadership today. And that's okay. However, here's what you do have, and it is so valuable, and that is your vision. The better future state, the future state that everybody else wants to be part of, right? You have that. No one else does. It is a differentiator for you today, and it always will be. Right? So run on what you do have. You can create a vision. Again, going back to a VTO, why is this so critical, right? Number one, it's good for you as the owner, but let's put that aside for a second. You do need to build a leadership team. So in spite of you not being able to potentially afford what you want right now, you absolutely can have a differentiator, and that is a compelling vision. Right? Have it written down. Guys, this is where I'm taking this thing. In the next 3 years, here's where we're going. These are our targets. This is our 10-year vision. This is what I want you to help me build. I want you to get on board with this, and this is why. This is what I want you to be part of. Look at the future that you have here. If you have that, I'm telling you, you're beating 90% of the competition. You no longer are just offering them a job. You're offering them a pathway. Right? You're offering them a pathway. This is the who, not how, right? You're allowing them to get to their better future state, right? You're creating, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. No one else can do this. Only you can.
It's like when we talk about this a lot, it all comes back to the mindset stuff. Like
It really does.
it literally is. If you boiled this whole thing down, that's why I'm so excited to do this podcast with people like yourself, because you have it.
Yeah.
And exuding that into this audience or anybody who listens to this, if they can just walk away with like, whoa, like I never met someone like that.
Yeah.
Like that's my dream. I love that. Because this one podcast or hearing one thing you say might just punch someone right in the face, and they're like, I've been thinking too small. And
Yeah.
they take their vision from the other day. I was talking to a guy who's doing like 5 million revenue, and he was like, I was like, hey, say you had like a team, like a true team, because we were talking about his 3-year vision. He was like 8 million. I was like, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss that another time. Pump those numbers up. But I'll show you why. So say you had a full leadership team right now, and they're all really good at what they do, and you were the CEO of the company. Say you had that team right here, right now, today. What would your then 3-year picture be? You like stopped. 12, 13 million. I was like, so the cost of you not getting those people is what, 5 million additional revenue, and 3 years later.
Yeah.
So the sooner you rip off the Band-Aid and get those people, the sooner you're going to feel that growth.
For sure.
Touch on that business owner who was asking you questions about like the financial, like how much cash should you have saved up? And let's talk about that because my personal perspective is like, there is no better investment ever than in your own business or in your skills.
Yep.
So can you talk a little bit about that? I know you've already explained a little bit more about the coaching and the masterminds and all that, but like just talk for some of the business owners out there that, go spend their money on like nice houses, cars, all those things rather than or outside investments. I've heard that a lot.
Yep.
Tell everyone what your thoughts are on that, especially because you work with businesses that invest back into the business.
For sure. Yeah, let's go right to it. I mean, the truth of the matter is most business owners get stuck in scaling their business beyond $5 million.
Yeah.
And as a CFO, I see this dollars and cents literally all the time. The pathway to get beyond 5 million in revenue will require a significant reinvestment of your profit back into the thing that's going to ultimately provide the most value to you in the long run, and that is your business.
Yep.
That's just a fact.
Yep.
And I see that most business owners, they get to that $2, $3, $4 million range, and they have some decent profitability and cash flow, and it's awesome. And they start siphoning, right? They start siphoning that off to lifestyle. And listen, if that's your vision, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. But know that it's going to be difficult in that revenue range, even at a healthy profit margin, to scale significantly beyond that and simultaneously or concurrently living a lifestyle that really is probably better off at 10 to 50 million.
Yeah.
Right. So you're now sacrificing something, and it's fine. This is a trade-off. That's all it is, right? So you're trading off something right now that you can absolutely have. It's a better lifestyle that gives you X, whatever X is for you, vacation home, country clubs, whatever that might be. You might be able to have it now, but it's unlikely that you'll have that now and have a business that's worth a multiple of 6 to 8 bottom line EBITDA at 10 million, 20 million in sales. Unlikely both of those things will be true. We happen to have many clients that are in the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and beyond $1 million range, right? And I can tell you firsthand that those clients most often, it was a process to get to that, right? And there was significant trade-off in the $5 to $10 million range. They were building team. They were reinvesting profits back into their business, into systems, into process, into facilities, into capacity, into sales process, into team members, into a leadership team, right?
Yep.
These are all things that, again, I'm not saying there's not the outlier. There without a doubt are. But for most businesses, and I'll pick on the industry we know really well, which is trades, construction, restoration, right? Blue collar type businesses. It's very, very difficult to get to that point where you have a significant enterprise value attached to your business without making some short-term trade-offs. And I'm not saying you should be broke and poor. It's not my message. My message is if you have 20% EBITDA or 20% profit at a $5 million business, right? So that's not bad. You're taking home $1 million a year or cash flowing $1 million a year. You're taking 80% of that, 70, 80% of that, and you're siphoning that to lifestyle only. you're leaving a really small margin on the table for your business to grow. You're just leaving a really small, it's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So you have to determine if your vision is to get to that next level as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to take a trade-off in the short term, which is going to maybe sacrifice some lifestyle stuff, but it's going to position you for so much more later.
Delayed gratification.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating as that, right in that 5 million range where it's like, am I building a true asset or is this lifestyle? Like, what's the vision?
Yeah.
And I love, part of the 10-year, the 3-year, all that stuff is it just anchors you to like, what am I actually doing?
Yeah.
Because it makes makes decisions just so much easier.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, so I got to be there in 10 years. Why am I not doing that this year? Like,
What's so funny too, and I was talking to a business owner who literally was making this trade-off decision. Healthy business in that 3 to 4 million range, cash flowing really well, putting like $100,000 into investments outside of his business every year. Awesome. What kind of returns are you getting on that? Well, I'm getting really good S&P returns, like 9, 10%. I'm like, awesome. But you just told me that you grew your business from $1 million to $5 million in 4 years,
Yep.
my friend.
That's nice.
That is crushing the S&P.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not even close. We're not even talking the same atmosphere.
100%.
Also, you control your destiny over here, right?
Yep.
And I'm not saying don't have investments, right? Or whatever, retirement, 401ks, IRAs, fun. However, if your intent is to be an entrepreneur and to build serious enterprise value, and again, just relative to some of the businesses we're working with, right? And in the I'll call it the greater market, the value of these businesses is literally 6 to 8 multiple on your bottom line, right? Do the math on that. If you have again, even a $10 million business at a I'll call it a healthy 10%, true 10% EBITDA, right? And I think that's bottom of the barrel, right? We're talking about an $8 million valuation. $8 million.
An $8 million asset versus the S&P 7 to 10% returns, which is like, and this is a big part of like why I want to bring on people like yourself to this podcast is because, I hear a lot of people investing in all these different other things like, oh, I just want to put my eggs in different baskets. And, ultimately that there's a cost associated with doing that,
100%.
that you're not putting that money. And this is a good topic about marketing. When you're spending your money on 15 different marketing channels or any different things like that, what's the one that works? Imagine if you put all of those things into the one that works just more. And same thing goes with investing in your business where I hear, hey, I got this real estate investment, I got this, I got that. What if you forgot about all that and just got really, really good at the one thing you're really good at right now, business, and threw all your eggs in that? How much faster would you get to your overall vision? And it's exponential.
And then it's the focus too. I just have seen this now play out too many times to not say it. And that is, the focus aspect of an entrepreneur is so valuable. Your focus as a leader, as the CEO visionary of your organization has so much value to it. And when you dilute that focus because you're doing this real estate investment over here and this market investment over here and this third business over here that's completely out in left field, right? Your focus is now diluted. Your attention is now diluted. And here's the problem with that. The thing that's paying you the best multiple, right, is being neglected, right? You're siphoning the cash from that and you're neglecting it. So it's a double-edged sword. It's not just that you're losing the potential opportunity cost of reinvesting back into this business. You're then taking your focus off and putting it somewhere else that's not making any money. Right? And this is already making money. So if your purpose is to make money, what are you doing? Right? You're taking what you think is a passive investment and you're making it an active investment because you have to use your brain. Right? So it's really not passive and it's really distracting. And I did this with real estate a little bit, right? And listen, I'm not saying that's
right now.
Right? It's not. I'm not saying it's not a bad investment. What I'm saying is if it's a passive investment that's becoming active, you're actively destroying the thing that's making the most money, which is your primary business.
What leads business owners to do that? Why do they get distracted? What causes that?
I think there's so many things, right? I think number one, it's a lack of accountability. It's one of the reasons I continue to put myself into situations where I'm surrounded by people that are further ahead than I am.
Yeah.
I very infrequently find people that are doing 20, 30, 40 million in business that are focused on 3 or 4 businesses.
100%.
Doesn't happen.
Nope.
It's such a myth.
Yep.
Right. It pisses me off, right? To be honest with you, because I hear this all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, we have to have all these different revenue streams. Why? Well, who said that?
Yep.
Right. And I think there's this in the Christian community, there's like, well, but in the Bible says that you should have the wealthy man has 7 or 8 revenue streams. Yeah, for sure. But you got to have one that's actually healthy first before you have the 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Right. And a healthy business is not one that has made profit for 2 years at $3 million revenue top line. That isn't healthy. Right. That's a short blip.
Yep.
Right. Get this thing healthy. It exists without you. You can truly leave for 6 months and it's not owner dependent. Now we're talking healthy business. Right? Different story for a different person, now can make different investment choices. But for you who have been in business for 8 years, your business can't live 4 seconds without you. Again, I'm going back to this one call I was on. This guy that I'm trying to sell CFO services to, right, literally had to take 2 calls from his ops guys about some hydraulic cables, right? And I'm just like, my friend, like, this business is worth nothing.
Yeah.
It's not worth even $1.
Yep. That's
a tough pill to swallow. He's doing $5 million in sales, right? He's got a decent bottom line. It's worth nothing.
Here's my perspective on this. I love the accountability piece of it. But what I see a lot of is that, hey, I got to this point and I'm just going to go do something else because I don't know how to break through this.
Yeah.
I don't really know how do I do this thing? And a lot of the times it's, what you've already done. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think, all right, the breaking point is, how do I find people that can do what I have already done and build that leadership team? I ultimately think that is the differentiator. And when people can't, maybe they have someone they've hired, and we should actually talk about this when you tried hiring the first few CFOs. I would love to share that story with everyone, or have you share that story, because I think it's going to resonate, because there's sometimes people they'll hire someone and it doesn't work out and they're like, well, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
For me, or whatever the excuse or the lie is.
Yep.
Talk about the first few hires that you went to make in terms of after Melissa, the fractional CFOs.
Yeah.
Maybe tell that story and someone can resonate with that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I look back and I'm like so grateful that Melissa worked out, right? And I don't want to just luck, whatever, right? The first one, I'm like, oh, that worked. I'll keep doing that again. And then the next few did not.
Yeah.
Right. And you got
to
witness that.
These are real, and this is why this podcast exists, because this is a real live story of someone who's like, I don't care, I'm going to figure it out. And I think, again, back to mindset, you're like, okay, it didn't work, moving on.
You do have to at some point, you have to develop the skill of looking at your business as a business.
Yeah.
You do. Because you could look at this as like, oh, but that was the person problem. I feel really bad that one thing didn't, or that guy or girl or whoever, man, that didn't work. I feel really bad about that. And I don't want to go through that again. That was really painful for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to remove the human element here by any means. However, you have to treat your business like a business.
Yeah.
Right? That piece didn't work.
Yep.
You got to fill it in with another piece.
Yep.
Right? That doesn't mean that the model doesn't work. That doesn't mean that the structure is imploding. That means that one move didn't work. And the reality is, as an entrepreneur, let's face it, most things we do fail. Yeah. It's inevitable, right? It's kind of like the nature of the beast. It's table stakes,
yep.
Right? Like, this is what's going to happen. You will fail more than you don't, right? It is just the truth. So as you hire, it's going to be no different. In my opinion, at least from my personal experience and what I see with so many of our clients, this is actually true regardless of industry, right? Because I'm in a professional service environment. I had this one guy, his friend and former client, runs a landscaping. Oh, it must be so easy hiring your business. All these professionals, they just get it. Like, in the blue collar world, it's so much harder. Brother, it's hard everywhere. Yeah. Get over it.
It's a lie.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard.
Yeah. Let's recap the idea of failure. What kind of information did you get when you first tried to hire those CFOs?
Yep.
Didn't work out. I think the mindset of failure is that, oh no, I'm a failure. When in reality, the actual, what failure does for you is provide you information of what didn't work, so that you get closer to what does. I had a client the other day talking about their rocks, and they're like, we're failures. This stuff doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, you now know that that's not the answer. Okay,
Yeah.
so we ripped that off. We ripped this off. We ripped this off. It's this.
Yeah.
And you hit the actual root of the issue. And, you know, I find a lot of business owners fixate on that one thing where it's the process of coming up and doing what you were talking about. What's not working, what's working. So care to elaborate on like the idea of failure in those first few hires? What did you learn from them? And then how did you, you know, kind of course correct?
Yeah, again, I'll start with the mindset, right? You have to take the mindset that we're going to isolate this as a failed issue or a failed process, and that the business isn't a failure. I'm not a failure, right? Personally,
Yeah.
This is not a personal attack on Jim, right? That this CFO didn't work, or that this person, this hire didn't work, this technician, this tradesperson, whoever it is, right? So we're removing that obstacle immediately.
Yep.
Then we have to look at this with clarity, right? And this again was where I think EOS is critical, because I think this is where we can now attack this issue from is this a people problem?
Yep.
Is this a process problem? Is this a systems problem, right? We can start to attack this in a more strategic way to move the ball forward.
Yep.
And I think that's key. If you're constantly moving the ball downfield, you're getting a little better every time. Yeah, it's costly, and we want to throw the Hail Mary and score every time on the first attempt. Don't get me wrong. But if we don't, that doesn't mean we still don't have to score the touchdown. We know theoretically, and we also know operationally, we can't scale this business without people. Impossible, right? Therefore, we have to figure out people.
Problem solved.
Problem solved, right? And I wish it was that simple, but I think if we can overcome the objection in our own mind by constantly coming back to this reality that my business, the 10-year vision that I have, the 3-year targets that we have as a leadership team, these will not come to pass if we don't attack this issue and if we don't solve this problem. So therefore, we have to solve this problem.
Yeah. I always love your perspective, and you know, I appreciate you coming out here. You know, I know it's a long drive, but you know, there's gonna be so much value that the listeners get out of just hearing some of your perspectives on, again, mindset. I'm gonna hone in on this for every episode I do, because I think it's the one differentiator that if I could give something to someone, it would be that.
Yep.
How do I increase their mindset to take them from, hey, I want to be a $2 million, that I want to do 10, 15, 20 million, because ultimately it's just a skill. It's just a skill that you have to learn. That's why I think the distraction piece of, you know, a business owner that's at 2 or 3 million in revenue, it's like, I can't break through this, so let me just go back over that way and do it again and go here and then do it again.
Yep.
You know, I want to help that business owner get uncomfortable, admit that, listen, I don't know what to do, and hear something from you or one of the future listeners that was like, oh, that's the thing that I'm feeling right now, and Jim did it, so that means I can do it.
Yeah.
So do you have any final words of advice, any key things that you'd like to share with any of the listeners that we didn't cover?
Man, I think one thing you said earlier about, I think we were talking about EOS and why EOS is impactful. We're talking about the leadership team. So we're just talking about mindset of the leader, of us. But hang on, there's more.
But wait,
right? There's more, right? And I think the power of running on EOS is, and this has become fun for me as a visionary, is we have to change the mindsets of our leadership team.
So good.
Right? It doesn't stop with us. And
So
guess
good.
what? It might even be harder, right? Because they're not, they're not entrepreneurs, right? So they're not as foolish as us. We'll like fall down 100 times and dress up like a monkey on stage and do all these stupid things, right? I constantly look at what I do for this business. I'm like, I'm an idiot. Like what
But
is?
I love it.
But I do love it. Let's do more of that. But these people are smart, right? They're not going to do those stupid things. You know. So, but for us, like as a visionary, as the CEO, entrepreneur, founder, part of what we have to do, part of our job, in essence, is to develop the leadership team, which means we have to develop their mindsets, which means we have to invest into them, into their experiences, into the environments that they place themselves in.
So true.
And I think that for us, most people don't want to invest in that. They don't even, I think most people struggle investing in themselves, let alone investing in the mindsets of their leadership team. So I would just encourage anyone who's listening to this, and this is just personal testimony from me, the environment of EOS has been a great foundation for us to help develop the mindset around our leadership team, not just me as the visionary.
So well said. Again, thanks for coming here. You know, as this grows and you know, there's more and more people that come on here, I'm looking to do like, multiple, like have panels of people.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have our event coming up. If this video comes out, we're having an event May 7th, private event. We already have like 35 people registered, business owners in New Jersey. Jim's going to be speaking in addition to Nick and Luke Braga. These are business owners running businesses between 3 and 30 million revenue.
Yep.
You're absolutely not going to want to miss this. This is, and something that I'm excited for is to do this more, because there's not a place here in Jersey for this.
Yep.
There really isn't. And I'm excited to start taking that to the next level and bringing a bunch of good people together.
Yeah.
And just sharing mindset stuff. So
love it. Ryan, thanks for having me,
it.
man. This is awesome.
Always.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.